Your Humanities Half Hour is brought to you by the Northern Marianas Humanities Council.
Hafidades and Tiro, welcome to Your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry, and today we're talking about the Marianas History Conference coming up on September 1st and 2nd. And here to give us all the details about this exciting event is Scott Russell, the Executive Director of the Northern Marianas Humanities Council. Scott, welcome to your show.
Thank you, Catherine.
It's nice to have you in studio again, finally, and what an exciting event to be talking about, the Marianas History Conference. What is this conference all about, number one?
This history conference was conceived back in 2011 as a way of joining scholarship that has been split between Guam and the CNMI for, many, many decades. And so the idea was to, bring scholars from here and from Guam and from anywhere else, people that are working on history and social issues relating to the greater Marianas area. And that's where we came up with our overall theme for the conference, which is One Archipelago, Many Stories.
I think this is a great opportunity for anybody who's interested in the Marianas or has studied it. I'm thinking about Marianas history teachers who might be able to send their students on Saturday. What types of topics are going to be covered here?
A wide range, kind of running the gamut from ancient Chamorro history through to a category we call recent history.
We have a wonderful caliber of speakers, including three keynote speakers. Who are we bringing in to kind of lay the foundation for the conference?
Our keynote speakers are Laura Torres Sauter from Guam, Julian Algun, who's an attorney from Guam, and Carlos Madrid, who's an historian, a Spanish historian who resides in the Philippines right now.
Now, I know you have over 20 other speakers that have submitted their papers on these various periods and topics, as you've mentioned, but do we know yet what the keynote speakers are going to be speaking on?
Dr. Sauter will be giving a talk on Chamorro revision, where she'll be looking at, how Chamorro history is portrayed, and has been portrayed up until present, and how it might be portrayed going forward.
And she's been as a speaker at numerous engagements here in the Marianas, so I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with her.
That's true.
She's originally from Guam, correct?
She is from Guam.
Yes. Okay. And then Dr. Madrid?
Dr. Madrid is a Spanish historian. He's now running the Cervantes Institute in the Philippines, but he's been a student of Marianas history for almost 20 years. And he'll be taking a look at Don Luis de Torres, a figure of national dimension. Don Luis was the vice governor of Guam for many, many, many years in the late 18th and early 19th century. And Carlos has, found a lot of information about him that he would like to present.
And Don Torres is also known in history as being the individual who went down to the Caroline Islands to try to restore the navigation between the Caroline Islands and Guam, correct?
That's true. He was vice governor in the late 1780s when canoes came up from the Central Carolines for 2 straight years, and he thought that that trade had been reestablished, and then they stopped coming until the early 1800s when he actually went down on an American whaling ship and tried to find out why the voyages had stopped.
So that's a pretty interesting part of Marianas history, both from the Chamorro and the Carolinian side. And then Mr. Agun, you mentioned. Do we know what he's speaking on?
His topic is Wronging the Rights, a Mediation on Legal Mischief in the Marianas.
Now that sounds interesting.
Yes, he is taking a look at the idea of non-Indigenous residents making a case for voting rights on Indigenous matters.
Oh, okay. So a little bit of politics and what could be a little, maybe something applied a little bit more currently from Mr. Egan.
Yes.
So before we get any further, I do want to make sure we mention the venue and the times so that people can start planning ahead. Again, it's September 1st and 2nd.
Friday and Saturday. Each day will start at 9 a.m. and should wrap up by 5 or a bit before.
And it's free at Fiesta, correct?
That's correct. Free, open to the public, and it'll be on a first-come, first-served basis, but we have a very large venue, so we don't think that seating will be a problem.
Now, the last conference was held in Saipan or in Guam? I can't remember.
It was held in Guam in 2013. The way this was originally set up was to be a biannual conference with the venues alternating between the CNMI and Guam. So we had the first conference on Saipan in 2012. We should have had the next one on Guam in 2014, but that was an election year, and they wanted to hold it in 2013. So we did. And the third conference should have been held on Saipan in 2015, but we had everything ready to go, and at the last minute we were hit by the typhoon and we had to cancel. And it was the consensus of the steering committee that it be reconvened in 2017.
Are we expecting a lot of people from Guam to come for the conference?
Yes, I believe so. It seems to be a very popular event, and it stirred a lot of interest in Guam. And we understand that there's a sizable group coming over.
Well, another group I can think of that might be interested in the conference, especially and available to attend on Friday, is retirees. You know, they've experienced a lot, been a part of history, recent history in the Marianas. And so we want to also invite the retirees, especially on Friday, if you're available, to come out and listen to the speakers. Let's spend a little bit of time talking about who else is going to be presenting and see what topics they'll be speaking on. There's a lot, I know. I'll let you take over now.
Well, you're right, Catherine. There are a lot of speakers. In addition to the keynotes, we have 33 other presenters.
Wow, so I was wrong. It wasn't 20, it was 33. Okay.
Yes, so we have a number. Perhaps it might be easiest for anyone interested in seeing the presenters and also seeing abstracts of their presentations. They're invited to go to our website. On our homepage, there are links to the abstracts and presenter bios, and there's also a link to the schedule, which lists the times and rooms in which presenters will be speaking. We're going to be having concurrent sessions in 2 rooms.
That's right. So we're going to have the difficult task of after the keynote speakers, choosing which of 2 speakers we want to speak to. But I'm not going to ask you to pick your favorites because that would be biased, and I know you wouldn't do that. But names at least a few of the topics that people can look forward to on these days.
Well, it's kind of hard to know where to start, but I will say that Dr. Miguel Villar, the DNA scientist, will be speaking again, and I know he's spoken here before, and he has been quite popular, and he'll be sharing his latest research into Chamorro DNA. We have a homegrown product, Galvin De Leon Guerrero from Mount Carmel School, who will be taking a look at the education history in the Northern Marianas. We have Gillette Leon Guerrero from Guam, who is going to be presenting on genealogical research. We have a Japanese scholar who's coming from Japan, Yumiko Imaizumi. She'll be looking at the Japanese military and native civilian government during World War II in the Marianas. We have a range of presenters who will be looking at ancient Chamorro history through archaeological research. There's several of those, but I'll refer interested people to the schedule on our website. But I would like to point out that we'll be having Mike Carson looking at a large-scale view of ancient history of the Mariana Islands, which is one that we're going to be looking forward to.
Now, you're a historian, obviously, and you've lived here in the Northern Marianas since the Peace Corps times. May I ask, which of these presentations seems the most unfamiliar to you? One that you feel you might learn the most from, given the fact that you have such a broad knowledge, or you're kind of like the go-to guy, I would say, for the community. I know the Marianas Visitors Authority has reached out to you. Anybody who has any kind of historical project, Scott Russell's name usually comes up. So I'm just curious to know, which one do you think is most out of your realm of knowledge and experience so far?
Well, there are some presentations in the recent category where we're going to be looking at, for instance, the work of the women in safeguarding the Marianas. We have another one where the presenters will be looking into advancing traditional knowledge systems through principled partnerships, particularly with respect to ancient and traditional medicine techniques. We have speakers looking at the sources of sovereignty in the CNMI. Another presenter will be talking about indigenous adaptive resistance in the Mariana Islands, rethinking historical eras. So a lot of these presentations are going to be brand new to me, and I'm very much looking forward to learning from them.
Cool. Let me ask you, you've attended all of these conferences, been an integral part of organizing them and getting these people together. What do you feel is the significance for the attendees and for the people who come out? Do you feel it really makes a difference for us to come together and listen to these topics?
I do. I think one of the major achievements this conference has been able to achieve is to bring together Guam and the CNMI, where we're cooperating on a scholarly level and an organizational level, which hasn't always been the case. And we're very pleased to have our institutional partners, such as the University of Guam, Guampedia, the Guam Preservation Trust, and others on Guam who have worked with us and established, inter-island cooperation. And at the very beginning, we set this conference up to be not another academic conference, although we do have academicians who will be presenting scholarly work. But the idea behind this conference was to open it up to the general public. So the main audience for this is not other scholars, which most history conferences cater to, but this is for the general public. And we hope people will come and listen to the presentations, and hopefully it'll stimulate interest in history and culture and current events that will motivate them to learn more and become involved.
And I have to say, from my personal experience as the MC at one of the earlier conferences here in Saipan, it's a lot of knowledge, but there's also something emotional and maybe even spiritual that happens when people come together and reflect back on things that have affected the people of the Marianas and that continue to affect them today as either survivors of the war or children of the survivors of the war. So, yes, as you mentioned, it is very scholarly, but there's also something of a feeling of unity and family. I feel. Do you feel I've gone too far in saying that? No,
that's correct. And in addition to a large group of scholars who are coming in, we also have avocational historians who are not trained in history per se, but who have undertaken historical research and have written on their on the results of their research. I should mention that to stimulate and to empower more local voices to be in these conferences, we have on two past occasions over the last few years facilitated research history workshops. And our friends at University of Guam have facilitated those, Dr. Ann Hattori and Dr. Michael Clement, over the last few years, where the community has been invited to take this 1-week workshop to learn the techniques and to learn the resources so that they can have the ability and the knowledge to be able to tackle historical research projects, whether it be genealogical projects or other topics that are of interest to them. And we do have some members of the community who will be presenting.
You've mentioned, of course, the organizers for the event, and I'm sure you're partnering with a lot of people to make this happen.
This year, we are our main partner, in addition to our partners at the University of Guam. As with past conferences, we are working closely with Guampedia, which is the online Guam encyclopedia. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to recognize our financial sponsors. We were very fortunate to have gotten support from a number of businesses and organizations in the community. And I'd like to recognize first our gold level sponsors. They were sponsors who contributed $3,000 or more to the conference, and that includes the Bank of Guam, IT&E, J.C. Tenorio Enterprises, Northern Marianas College, the Guam Preservation Trust, and DFS. We had silver level sponsors, that's at $2,000, the Marianas Variety in Imperial Pacific International. And then we had several bronze level sponsors, and they include Lollipops, the Marianas Visitors Authority, Triple J Enterprises, Docomo Pacific. That's it. And then we had some general level sponsors, including Saipan Shipping and Moylan's Insurance. And we're very, very grateful for all of them for helping us to make this conference possible.
I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity, and we would really love to see some young people come out as well. Parents, galvanize your kids. Take a look at the schedule on the website for the council at northernmarianashumanities.org, northernmarianashumanities.org, and pick a couple of speakers that look, favorable, and coming out, spend some time, share some thoughts and opinions, ask some questions. It's going to be a great experience, I feel, for everybody who participates. Give us those details one more time.
It's on the 1st and 2nd of September, 9 to 5 each day. It's free and open to the public, and you can find all of the information on our website.
Thanks so much. Any thoughts, final thoughts before we go?
I just think it's going to be a really good event, and I hope everybody comes to view it.
So we hope to see you all at the Marianas History Conference, as Scott has described. Of course, Scott Russell, the Executive Director of the Northern Marianas Humanities Council, our guest for this part of the show. We'll be back with more after this.
On September 1st and 2nd, the Northern Marianas Humanities Council, Northern Marianas College, University of Guam, and Guampedia will host the 3rd Marianas History Conference in Saipan. The conference theme, One Archipelago, Many Stories, Milestones in Marianas History, highlights the deep and rich history of the Mariana Islands. It also bridges the political division of the archipelago, which dates to the late 19th century. Topics to be covered include ancient history, including the results of archaeological research, early colonial history in the 17th and 18th centuries, colonial history in the 19th and early 20th centuries, World War II, recent post-war, and oral history and genealogical research. Keynote presenters will be Julian Egan, Dr. Carlos Madrid, and Dr. Laura T. Sauder. Whether you're a scholar, a student, or a senior citizen, be sure to mark your calendars and join us for this free conference on Thursday through Saturday, September 1st through 3rd. For more information, visit the Northern Marianas Humanities Council website at northernmarianashumanities.org. That's northernmarianashumanities.org.
Welcome back to your Humanities Half Hour. In this half of the show, we're bringing in one of the participants in the recent CNMI Storytellers workshop that the Northern Marianas Humanities Council put on for high school and college youth, teaching them how a new platform to share their opinions and their ideas about what's happening in their lives, in their communities. This was part of the Storyteller Cooperative of the Pacific Resource for Education and Learning, also known as PREL, and it was facilitated by Kathy Jitno-Kitchener and Daniel Lin, no strangers to the Commonwealth. They've been here before on a workshop and for other activities. And joining us today is Seranicia Amirez. She's an 11th grader at MHS and a participant of the workshop. Seranicia, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Thanks for making time to come out and share with us your experience.
It's no problem.
So how did you find out about this workshop and what made you decide to go?
Well, my mom had emailed me about this workshop. She got an email from my Nina, and then she emailed it to me, and I just saw a chance to improve my writing, and I just wanted to join in.
Are you a writer? What kind of things do you write?
I've written mostly poetry, but I've tried to write short stories, and then the casual things for schools like essays and all that.
What did you think the workshop was going to be like before you went?
I thought it was going to be like exactly what we did. We learned different types of writing, how to bring out our creativity, how to look on different sides of creativity, and how just different types of creativity. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how the workshop started. What did you guys do in the beginning, and what are some of the activities you did?
Well, in the beginning, I came in and they started out with introducing themselves. I met Kathy, who I have worked with before, and then I met Dan, who is also a photographer. And the first activity they did, I believe, was biggest dream vacation, and then worst vacation.
Fun.
It was very fun. So they made us write our dream vacation first.
Wow.
And then work as a group to make our own one group dream vacation. And then we worked as a group again to think of the worst vacation possible.
Uh-huh.
And then when we shared all our dream vacations, the thing that surprised me was what they said was, okay, now rip up your dream vacation.
Wow.
Because it's not happening.
Oh, okay.
I mean, we all laughed about it. But yeah, some of the dream vacations were kind of, realistic. And
why did they have you rip up your dream vacation?
Because they wanted to show us that you need to work on the negative side of writing, try to make it positive. That's the reason they made us do both dream and worst vacation, because we worked on a worst vacation and we had to create a commercial to make it the best vacation that it was. So yeah, it was a lot of fun doing that. It was very funny.
It sounds like a lot of fun.
It is.
So what else did you guys do?
Well, we free wrote most of the time. We did a word palette, and basically when a word palette is you write one word on the board and then you think of all the words that come to mind with that word. And we did Saipan. So a lot of words came up, mostly food, and then I mean, Saipan, yeah, food. But yeah, we just did a word palette, what is the thing you think of Saipan? Then people off island, what do you think is the word that comes up when they hear about Saipan? Then what are the negatives of Saipan? So once we got all of that together, we kind of worked on a poem to put it into, we worked on a poem and wrote about Saipan, basically, how much this island means to us.
And I wanted to ask you if you could share your poem with us today.
I could. Yeah, I could.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay. My island. You think you know, but you have no idea. You think we are small, but we are large in family. You think we are uncivilized, and we have no manners. What gives you the right to say that when our president wants to build a wall and make America great again? We know respect. Do you? You think we are just a territory, and America fought for us for nothing. You have no idea. You have no idea about our culture, where we have a barbecue every Sunday, where you can hear the sounds of sticks hitting each other as Carolinian men chant and dance in traditional clothing, where we amen our relatives whenever we see them. What's amen, you ask? It's when you take the hand of the ones older than you, bring their hand to your forehead, and you respond with nyot or nyora. You have no idea about our history, where our ancestors were known to be the best swimmers, where we built canoes and you can see them sailing towards the horizon. You have no idea how special this island is. Splatters of purple, pink, and orange creating a beautiful sunset view, a melting pot of different cultures mixing and coming together. Beaches, deep, blue, and clear. My island is special, but it's changing. Beaches that could be as clear as a cup of water are darkened with litter and pollution. Canoes that once crowded the seashore are now replaced with boats that have a motor. The stars are blocked by a bright red and gold sunshine that apparently is the best thing that ever came to this island. People who once came together smiling and waving now don't even wave when they see each other on the streets. Weekends at beaches are rare. We can barely swim towards Managaha. Culture is disappearing. Saipan is losing its grip on what it once was. A home, a safe place, an island. It's like a game of cards. Our king and queen are building their palace to quote-unquote help us, and we are the joker cards. Our words mean nothing, and are looked down upon by the other cards, the king, the queen, and the trump card. Yeah.
Ooh, interesting line there.
Yeah.
What does this poem mean to you?
Well, to me it means like I wish there was it was just me going to the head where I wish our culture was still like you see kids talking about culture, still sharing stories about before. And I just my mind went to Best Sunshine, how it was like the big buildings are new to me. I'm not used to seeing big buildings, and it does kind of bother me in the Garapan area because it's very trafficky. So yeah, I wrote this poem just to say how I felt about it.
How does it make you feel when you share your poem?
It makes me feel good, actually. When I share it, it's like I'm relieving a lot of emotion that I've been holding in. So it's a good way to relieve anything that it's a good way to relieve any emotion I've been holding in.
Now, you also have another poem that you wrote. What is the basis of this second poem?
So the basis of this poem was that we actually went canoe riding for the workshop, just for fun, just to try to see if we can get any creative ideas from that.
This is the best workshop ever.
I know. I thought it was definitely something new for me.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. But yeah, basically we were talking about how canoes were built back in the day, how there were 50 sails, and there's this kind of thing where they do 500 sails, where they're trying to build canoes, and we could see them sailing towards the horizon. And yeah, we learned about that. We went on one boat, and then we learned how to swim. So it was a really fun day, and I got a lot of inspiration from that, from just doing that. So basically what my poem's about, just how I want to see canoes again.
Okay. Share it with us, please.
Okay. From a different angle. This is what the horizon will look like. People rowing canoes and listening to the ocean, instead of hearing the screams of a motorboat. Fish jumping up from the water trying to catch the sunset. People swimming to discover a whole other world. This is what the horizon will look like. But it won't, unless we do something. Canoes won't crowd our waters if we don't build them. There won't be fishes swimming through the sea if it's polluted. Long ago, our ancestors were known to be the best swimmers. Now today, barely anyone can swim a meter. The culture is disappearing. Instead of coming together, we are drifting away. We cannot lose our culture. We have to go back to our roots. Create canoes to travel island to island, take care of the ocean and stop pollution. Learn what fishes are endangered and the ones that aren't. Let's bring back the 500 sails that once traveled across the horizon. Let's bring back the family barbecues that brought people closer. This is what the horizon will look like. But it won't look like this if we don't do something.
What do you feel has been the most important thing you learned through attending this workshop?
The most important thing, I think, is basically there's a lot of things you could write about, and I think one thing I can quote from Kathy and Dan is keep the pen moving when you're writing, which doesn't mean don't stop. You can take a minute to write, think about what you're writing, but just don't get stuck. So I learned that writing does take a lot of time, but it soon becomes something easy, and it's a way to express what you're feeling. And yeah, that's basically what I learned. I really enjoyed it.
We've been speaking today with Seranicia Amirez. She's a recent attendee of the CNMI Storyteller Workshop facilitated by Kathy Jitnell-Kitchener and Daniel Lin, and of course sponsored by the Northern Marianas Humanities Council. Seranicia, thank you for sharing today.
You're welcome. I'm glad I got to share. Thank you for having me.
This has been your Humanities Half Hour. I'm Catherine Perry.
This program was supported by a We the People grant awarded to the Northern Marianas Humanities Council from the National Endowment for the Humanities. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily represent those of the National Endowment for the Humanities or the Northern Marianas Humanities Council.